So we've been focusing on power and getting women their equitable share of power for a long time, making sure that they're paid appropriately for their work, that they're represented at all levels of organizations, particularly top levels. And those are important problems. We need to solve them. But we all know that the progress hasn't been as fast as it should be, given women are as educated as their counterparts, male counterparts. They're consistently rated as good or better leaders. And yet we don't see the pay gaps and the representation gaps closing. One of the things that I bring to the conversation is talking about this equally important, but much less understood and discussed variable, which is status. And status is how much other people respect and regard you. Do they look at you and they see you and your ideas and your contributions as really valuable? Do they respect them? And we know we want that too. It feels terrible to feel undervalued or disrespected. But what we don't recognize, because we haven't been talking about it, is how those two things go together. That being respected and valued is the prerequisite for people wanting to give you the resources. And so what I want to help people do is to understand that women do lack status relative to men on average. It's not their fault, but it is absolutely a solvable problem. And when we solve it, we will do one of the most important things we need to do to also solve the power problem is to get the equitable resources for our work. So I titled the book I wrote Likeable Badass, and it's a catchy term and people like it. And they always think, yeah, that's what I'm going for. But it wasn't just to be catchy. It actually represents this underlying psychological truth about where does status come from? When we look at another person, the judgments we make of them aren't random. They're organized along two dimensions. So you have a vertical dimension, which is going to be how good we are at getting stuff done. It's going to be how assertive, how competent, how decisive, how persistent, how organized. And I'll call that generally our assertiveness. If I give you something, can you get it done? And that's really important for being respected because we value people who can accomplish things successfully. And they're, go-getters and they're going to get things done. And then the other dimension, which is horizontal, is do you care about people other than yourself? Psychologists often call it warmth. On the book title, I call it likable. But the basic idea is, are you friendly and likable, but sincere, honest, giving, those kind of qualities. And we respect people who want to put good things out into the world to help others. And when you have that part where you're both assertive and warm, if a person looks at you and they think, you're really good at what you do and you care about other people, that's your surefire, no-fail way to get somebody to respect you. Because gender is a status characteristic that we generally assign less respect and regard to women on average than to men, we have a challenge that men don't have is that we have to build our status. We are creating a reputation. Men are handed it and they're maintaining it. And they can lose it for sure, but they have to work harder to lose it. What does that mean? We need to be a little bit more strategic and a little bit more proactive earlier in relationships. Because even though gender influences status, we know it's not the only thing and it's not the most important thing. So much of our status is influenced by how we show up. So what I want all people to be thinking of, regardless of gender, is what are the easy things I can do to show up as early in a relationship as possible to convey to the other person, I am very capable and I am very caring. And if I can get you thinking those two things about me quickly when we interact, I will start to build my status with you. And then I can do what the men have been able to do. I've gotten the status in your eyes and now I can just maintain it. And it's not that hard. I do a lot of work in negotiation, and negotiating for yourself is an assertive act. I have to say to you, I would like this. I want this. I have to put an offer on the table. And women sometimes experience backlash from that. We see that in the research, and that understandably gets women to start over time to perhaps fear. Maybe I shouldn't assert for myself as much. Maybe I would do better if I just pulled back and didn't ask for as much. So the logic makes sense. But when we look at the science of women and advocating for themselves, what we see is it's not the presence of being assertive that causes backlash toward women. It's the absence of warmth. So we're okay with assertiveness as long as it's combined with warmth. This idea of likable and badass go together. And that can be really frustrating, that truth to women, because it's hard to find a woman who hasn't been told or criticized or commented on their likability or their warmth. It's frustrating, but it's also not inaccurate. One of the greatest bases of attraction and influence that we have is this liking and warmth. You want to be around people who you enjoy, who you think care about people other than themselves, and they want to do the same. So whether we're negotiating or whether we're simply trying to get the respect that we deserve, anytime we can continue to assert for ourselves and show our competence, but do it in a way that allows us to add value to other people and show, hey, I care about other people, that can be really, really, really useful. Sheryl Sandberg even talked about this when she was talking about negotiating for her Facebook role with Mark Zuckerberg. And I use the two sentences she said a lot because I think it shows you how quickly, even in a conversation for pay, which you think, how could I show up as warm when I'm just asking for money? Because that's really about me. She said that she told him, you want me to run your deal team, so you need me to be a good negotiator. And this is the only time you and I will ever be on opposite sides of the table. And I thought in two sentences, that was a really clever way to be able to be assertive. I need a better comp package while also saying, I care about you. I'm going to be fiercely loyal to you. And by the way, I'm going to do a really good job for you because these skills that I'm using right now are the same skills that you're hiring me. So always looking for ways to tell your story in terms of the benefit to other people in a negotiation or otherwise is how we add in the warmth while allowing us to maintain the high level of assertiveness. I really don't want women to pull back on asking for or going for what they want because they're highly capable and they deserve all of that and more. There are a lot of mistakes that we see that human beings make when they're trying to build their brand. And a lot of times men make these mistakes as much as women, but I'm more concerned when women make them because we're not starting from that advantage status starting point. One of my favorites to highlight for people, because it's so common, is hiding our successes. So something good happens to you. You get promoted, you win an award, whatever it is. You think, I don't want to go telling people about that because I don't want them to see me as a braggart. And if they see me as a braggart, I won't be as warm. So if I keep quiet, I am doing myself a favor by preserving my status because I'll be nicer. There's a logic to that. The problem is the logic is flawed. So if we're in a conversation and I have some good news to share and I don't mention it, you will later find out because the grapevine is super efficient. And when you find out, do you think, oh my gosh, Alison didn't tell me that. She is so modest. No, that's not what people think. Where the research shows what people think is either, why didn't you tell me? Or are we not good friends? Or do you think I'm so pathetic that you were outshining me and I couldn't be happy for you and I would be jealous? Do you have that little low of an opinion of me? So when we hide a success that is later discovered, the relationship suffers. We're seen as less warm. So it's actually to our strategic advantage when those things happen to share them. And if it makes you feel really uncomfortable just to hear that idea, one of the things I would encourage people to do is to share your success while also complimenting another person that had some role in it. So if you if you won an award, talk about people who contributed to the work. When I am featured in media, for example, and I say, hey, I got to do this really great interview. Here were all the people who helped me, who produced it, who interviewed me, who did all this work, and they did do great work. So shining the spotlight on other people who were involved in the process, it's called dual promotion. And it's not only feels better for when you self-promote, because it feels like you're not just talking about you, it's also really strategic. So when we promote ourselves at the same time as promoting other people, we get the benefit to our assertiveness, but we're also seen as more warm. Another thing I would really encourage people is to say, celebrate the good work that other people are doing. This is a beautiful way to live, but it's also highly strategic. So one of the rules I live by is every time I have a good thought about somebody, about something they've done, I don't let that thought die in my head. I tell somebody about it. And that's called other promotion. I'm not promoting myself, but I'm promoting the other person. I'm saying, hey, look at this great thing this person did. If you did nothing else other than go around and every time you had a positive thought about somebody, you put it out into the world, that would be so strategic for building your status. Why? Because they're going to find out about it, because people always do. And behavior in human relationships is reciprocated. So if I've done something nice for you, you get more excited about doing something nice for me. When I've sang your praises, you want to sing mine. And when someone else sings our praises, that is status gold because they can say anything they want that's positive about me. And there's no threat to my reputation whatsoever. It's just they're building my status while I'm sleeping. And they can be so effusive and positive in a way that I couldn't be. But if I promote you first, you're much more likely to do that to me. So that's a simple tool that we could just carry with us. And it doesn't, it doesn't require us to be self-promoting and think about ourselves, be other promoting, and people will do the same for you.